I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana on May the 26th, 1937. My family moved to California during the war years, the Second World War. We stayed in the projects in West Oakland until my mother bought a home in North Oakland, and it remains the family home until today. My mother and my father both worked in the shipyards during the war, and at some point prior to the war ending, my father ended up on the waterfront. The anti-apartheid struggle, as it relates to Local 10, started on June the 17th, 1976, which was one day after the massacre took place in Soweto.
When do we want it? Now!
Tennis star Arthur Ashe joining protesters outside the South African consulate in New York City. In Washington, another congressman goes to jail. Perrin Mitchell of Maryland, he's the man in the middle, joins comedian Dick Gregory and a local labor leader. Several congressmen, including Ron Dellums and Don Edwards of California, have also been arrested for illegally demonstrating outside the embassy. It's a symbolic move aimed at getting Ronald Reagan to change his policy towards the white minority government of South Africa. At Pier 80 in San Francisco, it's more than symbolic. Longshoremen from Local 10 are hitting South African and American businesses in the pocketbook. They're vowing not to touch the South African cargo on this Dutch ship, even though tonight a federal judge is telling the workers they have to.
To hell with the laws, to hell with the injunctions. I believe that that's what's necessary.
This is more than just another demonstration. This is a challenge to our system of free enterprise. Here you have millions of dollars worth of goods on a ship back there, and people here saying that if you do business with South Africa, you can't do it here.
This money is made off the most extreme exploitation of the black people in South Africa. Families are divided, people are being pushed out. It's like if you were in California and people were pushed out on the Mojave Desert and put in tin shacks with no way to grow food and no way to live, and they die. Every minute in South Africa, a child under 5, on the average, dies of starvation.
What appears to be certain legal action against their union and an arbitrator's ruling that'll hold back guaranteed weekly pay, longshoremen are still refusing to handle a cargo from South Africa. Remaining in the holds of the Dutch vessel, the steel, coal, glass, wool, and auto parts scheduled to have been unloaded here, along with some cargo from Australia.
I've been aboard this ship 3 times, and I'll work any other. Matter of fact, I was in the gang that discharged the Australian cargo. We have no quarrel with the people of Australia. We have no quarrel with Ned Lloyd Lines. We have a quarrel with the South African government. What we did in 1984, you couldn't do it today. All of the officials, if it's an officially sanctioned union activity, they'd all end up in jail. And then individual fines. When the judge issued the injunction to force us to unload the Ned Lloyd Kimberly, he identified certain individuals by name, me included. And I didn't have $200,000 a day to give nobody. You know what I mean? I didn't have $200, let alone $200,000, but that's what he said. If the picketing continues, the union itself is subject to $200,000 a day fines. And these named individuals. But the main thing is you don't want to go into a battle without any allies. Yeah, you can shut down a pier for a day. And like I said, a federal judge will be in there. But a federal judge can't stop the community. And that's what they couldn't stop. For 10 days,
For 10 days, that ship sat at Pier 80. You could not get from Army and 3rd Street down to the gate of Pier 80. It was jam-packed with community organizations and community people, just plain people.
At a dockside rally this morning, longshoremen and supporters repeated their feelings about the reports of life in South Africa, which they regard as oppressive.
It's got the blood of the courageous youth in Soweto that stood up against the vicious, racist apartheid regime.
The longshoremen are saying that this is a matter of conscience to them. It's a reaction to the recent oppression of labor leaders in South Africa, the detention, the torture, even the killings of people who have spoken out against the policies of apartheid. The Pacific Maritime Association is taking its case against the union to the federal courts to force the unloading of the cargo, in spite of the longshoremen's contention that this is the action of individual members. While the dockside rally kept the gates of Pier 80 closed, a floating picket line by a group called the Peace Navy paraded on the bay side of the ship, telling anyone looking from that side why the cargo is being ignored.
Demonstrators who tried to block the unloading of cargo from South Africa. It happened on Pier 80. Riot squads, as you see, moved in on 200 protesters. They were pushed out of the way and trucks moved in to unload the ship. But some dock workers who support the protesters said this city of San Francisco is not following its own rules against apartheid.
The hypocrisy of this administration of this city for passing paper resolutions against apartheid and then using the police force to remove people and workers who are trying to strike an economic blow against that regime.
If we do not fight apartheid, we too are the losers, because we have joined with the racists in their oppression. The struggle continues.
Thank you.
Bridges knew beyond all doubt that mechanization was unstoppable. His biggest problem was now convincing his membership to accept the inevitable fact. The days of handling cargo piece by piece, what longshoremen called hand jive, were gone forever. And with it, a way of life. Harry faced great dissension within the ranks from then on.
When I came to the industry, everything was break-bulk. The hours were long when you worked. You paid a price for it with your body, and men were maimed, and many died early. When we began to mechanize a little bit, the work was much easier. But we just were not prepared to lose the jobs that we lost, and we wanted to keep it the old way. Bridges couldn't sell it, none of the other men could sell it. We talked about it in terms of modernization, but it was a hard sell.
The changes that had started to take place was beginning to have an effect upon the psyche of the longshoremen, if you want to call it that. And some of us just couldn't go along with that kind of a program. It was just that whole transition from the old waterfront where the emphasis was on the man as opposed to the new waterfront where the emphasis was on the machine, so that we were fast becoming an extension of the machine rather than the machine becoming an extension of us. And we started to do leaflets. And at first there was, because there was criticism of Harry in those leaflets, not attacks on Harry, because that was the one thing that we were careful not to do. We never attacked the person, we attacked the policy. So in doing so, we encountered a lot of hostility. Like I said, my father and I, we had knockdown drag-outs over the kitchen table. Matter of fact, he stayed away from my house for a long time because of his defense of Harry.
As things became more mechanized, and employers said, We're not going to put a $100,000 piece of machinery here for some ham and egg to come along and bust it up and smash it up and do everything else with it. We want a responsible guy to handle it. And we think that guy, Joe Bananas, can handle it better than anybody else. And we want Joe Bananas to be the steady man in that thing. Well, the rank and file says, the hell with you. We're opposed to it. Because if you're going to take John Bananas today, you're going to take Joe Cornflakes tomorrow, and Charlie Soup Greens the next day, and pretty soon everybody's going to be a steady man. And we're going to have no need of a hiring hall. And the hiring hall was the cream, the whole essence of the union. So that's what the rank and file was afraid of. Lose the hiring hall, the union don't mean nothing.
You have to understand, a lot of people, you know, they have a job, right? And that's all they have. In some ways, to be a longshoreman, it becomes a state of mind and a state of being. So that you don't look at it as a job that I work for X company or Y company. You're a longshoreman, and you get your job out of the hall. And the boss is incidental to your employment. I mean, I work for Matson tonight, I work for APL the next night or whoever, and I'm through with them. But I'm never through with that hall. That's my lifeblood, you know. It's a place that, it's my second family, it's my second home.
Hey, Bill. Bill, how are you? Are you smoking cigars and everything?
But he's smoking those little cigars. That means he's still working.
Yep.
What it boiled down to was that a steady man could bypass the hall each morning and report directly to a company peer. The majority of the union saw this issue as a threat to the sanctity of the hiring hall. And in 1971, it led to a strike. Bridges did his best to talk the union out of it, but it was no use. 96% of the membership voted to hang the hook.
This union, 73 years ago, was born into struggle. And it has continued to struggle down through the years. In 1948, we took on the U.S. government from Hawaii all the way up and down this coast. In the 1950s, we again took on the government in the form of the House Un-American Activities Committee when they were trying to deport our past president, Brother Harry Bridges. And we won that struggle. We've taken on the employer, we've taken on the police, and we're going to have to end up taking on the Homeland Security apparatus.
Turn it up slightly.
Because this union, above all other unions, understands the nature of struggle. We know for a fact that the employer does not love us. Never have. George Bush Jr. proved that he doesn't love us when he interfered or tried to interfere in our negotiations a few years back. And what we saw up in Sacramento was just a continuation of that struggle. So it's heartening to see this turnout this morning. But let me say this to you. This is nothing compared to what you're going to see starting next July the 1st. And it's sad to say that in all of the years that I have been going to demonstrations, I don't see any international officers out here this morning. And I'm going to say it plain and simple so that everybody can understand it, because I don't believe in a whole lot of complication. This union has always been bottom up, never top down. Never top down. So you keep that in mind, brothers and sisters. These kinds of things have to be organized at the rank and file level sometimes. Because if you don't, you'll become subject to what we call business unionists, who view themselves as CEOs rather than workers. That's right. So with that, I just want to close. Be ever vigilant. Be ready to make some sacrifices. Because these two brothers today, you tomorrow.
Memories are forever, said the dog on the tombstone. If you're living underneath the bridge, man, all roads lead to home. I got a hidden flask, I'm paid in cash, got a cross above my bed. You know, I hitchhiked from Chicago, and a man walked up and said, "This is a union town, all down the line. This is a union town, all down the line. And if you come to strip our rights away, we'll give you hell every time. This is a union town, all down the line. Today the policeman's a union man, brother firefighter's my friend."
We are here, and people are wondering why we are here. So I will endeavor in these few short minutes to explain why we are here. It goes back to what we were taught as children, and certainly to the reason that we have trade unions. It comes down to a simple word called fairness. We are here to express to those who work in a building within my poor eyesight, and it's in that direction. 435 members of the House, 100 members of the Senate, who enjoy the things that we are here to discuss. Number one, national health care. They have national health care, universal health care. From a hangnail to a toenail that's ingrown is paid for by us. But if we mention national health care to them, their eyes glaze over and they go into conniptions. And they say to us, "Oh, you cannot have national health care because it will lead to rationing of health care. If you do not have it, it's already goddamn ration." Excuse me for my language, because I'm a longshoreman and I speak longshoreman's language. It's very plain and it's very simple, so that even a blithering idiot could understand it. So forgive me. They say to us, "Oh, we're all for education. We want no child left behind." I want to tell you a little story. I live not far from Fresno in California. It's the fourth largest city in the state of California and the fourth poorest city of its size in this nation. They are laying off teachers. They are closing down schools. Last year they had 12,000 children enrolled in various forms of musical programming. This year they have 500. 500. Written with a small f and steady sinking. In Oakland and throughout the Bay Area, where I formerly lived before I retired, they're also closing down schools, closing down libraries. And why are they doing this? It was because when Martin Luther King Jr. addressed the question, he made it very plain to anyone who would listen. You cannot have guns and butter. You either have to give up the butter for the gun, or you give up the gun for the butter, but you cannot have both. We have people who have occupied positions of authority in this country who have pushed programs that were of the military nature to the detriment of social programs, to where now it has gotten so ridiculous that we can afford to spend $10.2 billion on a weapons system that does not work. Part of the Reagan Star Wars legacy. We must, as working people, say to the politicians who claim that they work for us, but who will not let us in the room when they're putting together the medical benefits for seniors, but we have the pharmaceutical companies actually writing the legislation. No more of this. The largest corporation in America, the largest employer, is no longer General Motors, Ford, Westinghouse, or any of those people. It's a group called Walmart, the 5 richest families in the United States. Organizing the unorganized and backing those who are out there in struggle at any given moment. I want to close now with this thought. I'm a student of a gentleman by the name, or a brother by the name of Harry Bridges. And I had the benefit of hearing him on many occasions because I belonged to his home local. And he was no stranger there as a labor leader. He was there every union meeting. If he wasn't at our local, he was at some other local. And it surprises some people when I say to them, when I get ready to see my international president, I go see him. I don't make no appointment. And if I find the door closed, I'll kick it off the hinges because I pay his salary. And they should understand that. We do in the ILWU. It's universal. But I want to say this to you in reference to Harry Bridges. He taught us the one thing that makes this union great. He taught us that the power of any union resides in the hip pockets of that rank and file. He then added that nothing, absolutely nothing, is too good for the working class. Thank you.
Action, a reaction, equal and opposite. That's why, my friend, the blood tastes good every time I'm here. I got a will to win and a Cheshire grin. Yeah, the night watchman is near, and you can't get it where you're at, but you can sure get it here. So come rain or sleet or dark or night, come wind or frigid snow, there's 100,000 in the streets, and that number's gonna grow. And when we put the governor on trial, I'll be in the front row. Just take a look around, we're a union town. 1, 2, 3, 4, let's go. This is a union town, a union town.